The town of Farmington. Respecting history, planning the future.
Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask all of you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome. 2019. Happy New Year, everyone. Tonight we have no public hearing, presentations or recognitions, and no new items to add. I'll go next to the public comment. So would you please come up to the podium if you'd like to, if you have any public comment, and state your name and your address, please. Okay, thank you. Next, reading of the minutes.
I move to approve the December 11th, 2018 Town Council meeting minutes.
Second.
Any corrections or changes? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. No communications or appeals tonight. Report of committees. The Yukon Health Committee. No report tonight. Land acquisition.
Land acquisition meets again on Thursday at 5 p.m.
Okay. Green efforts.
Green efforts met last night. We are continuing to move forward with working towards our goals of waste reduction. We're working to figure out ways to work with restaurants and perhaps other businesses and the schools in town on ways to reduce waste. We're also exploring preparing a newsletter that will be sent out to town residents about recycling in town and ways to also reduce your waste. And that will also notify town residents of our annual cleanup day, which is scheduled for April 29th. It's the same day as the hazardous waste pickup, 27th.
April 27th.
Sorry, Sunday, Saturday. Yeah. April 27th, sorry. And we're looking for businesses and individuals and groups to help participate. As always, there will be prizes for groups and individuals who collect the most waste, and you can you can call Green Efforts if you want to pick up other times during the week as well, as opposed to just that day.
Thank you. FHS Ad Hoc Community Survey Committee.
Yes, so I think it's fair to say that our charge is just about complete, but we're preparing right now for the joint Town Council Board of Ed meeting, which is scheduled for January 22nd, and that's where we will present on the survey process and our findings and recommendations.
Thank you. FHS Ad Hoc Facility and Financial Committee.
The Facility and Financial Committee met on Thursday, December 13th. We finalized our committee's findings and recommendations, and we'll be presenting, as Beth said, at the joint meeting on January 22nd.
Okay, thank you. Farmington Village Center Committee.
Yes, we're actually meeting this Thursday at 6 p.m. and we are going to interview the three candidates that we identified during the RFQ process for the Village Center beautification process. That's it.
Thank you. Auditor Ad Hoc Committee.
We met last month to revise the RFP, which went out, and those will be coming back, and we'll be reviewing those at the next meeting.
Thank you. Report of the Council Chair and Liaisons. For the Chair report, really what I wanted to say to the group here is just Happy New Year, and I look forward to working together in this new year to do good things for the town. So. Board of Ed Liaison.
So their next meeting is Monday, January 14th next week at the Farmington High School Library at 7 p.m. And I'll just throw out there that they're starting their budget meetings on February 2nd because we are at that time of year.
Okay, it's the 2nd. And that's a Saturday morning
That's
they
their
start.
Saturday they start, yep.
Thank you. Chamber of Commerce.
Two items. The Chamber has a new website, which is farmingtonvalleychamber.com, which is up and running. And they are looking into having a Farmington Festival, which would replace the Unionville Festival, since no one has stepped forward for that. And they're committing $10,000 to get that started. So anyone interested, you can contact the Chamber of Commerce, but stay tuned for more to come.
Thank you. Economic Development Commission.
The Economic Development Commission will be hosting their quarterly business breakfast on January 23rd from 7:45 a.m. through 9:30 a.m. at the Farmington Club. The guest speaker will be Mr. John Traynor. He's the Chief Investment Officer at People's United Bank. He'll be sharing his thoughts and insights on the global economy in 2019. Mr. Traynor has appeared on Fox News, Bloomberg News, Nightly Business Report, and speaks regularly at business and community events throughout the region. The event is free, and I encourage everyone to attend.
Thank you. Farmington Historic District Commission.
Nothing new to report. The commission is reporting meeting on January 15th.
Thank you. Housing Authority.
So I believe it comes up on our agenda later. We're going to see that they're proposing new housing regulations, so they've been working on that together with other town programs. Those are recommendations from staff, and those are going to be presented and discussed. The staff is also working on several landlord-tenant issues, and I don't have the date of their next meeting handy. I believe it's later this month. I'll have to get that.
Okay. Thank you. Human Relations.
Human Relations, next meeting is Wednesday, January 30th at 6:30 p.m. at the Community Center.
Okay. Library Board.
The Farmington Main Library elevator is being upgraded and under construction right now. And as I mentioned last month, the Farmington Library will be hosting the Challenge Cup on February 22nd, 2019. It's a mini golf tournament that's going to be inside the Farmington Main Library. The cost is $60 a person, which includes food and beverages. But tickets are not yet available, but they will be available on the farmingtonlibraries.org website.
Thank you. TPC.
Nothing new to report. Their first meeting for the year is January 14th.
Okay. Unionville Historic District Commission.
The Unionville Historic District Commission met on January 3rd. The commission will be hosting an educational seminar on March 4th at 7 p.m. This will be a historic home seminar and will be open to anyone in the public to attend. Alyssa from the Connecticut State Office of Historic Preservation will be presenting information to the public regarding historic homes, including tax credits that are available for rehabilitation work that is done on historic homes.
May I add to that?
Sure.
I think that presentation will represent both the Farmington Historic and Unionville Historic tax credits availability. So I think that meeting is going to be open to both districts.
That's correct. Thanks for adding that, Bruce.
Okay, thank you. UVIA.
Nothing to report.
Water Pollution Control Authority.
Nothing new to report.
Other liaisons. Light Committee.
Well, we are working with the Chamber of Commerce. We're actually going to meet with them again tomorrow regarding signage from the rails to trails, getting different locations in town, places to eat, places to visit. So as people travel our trails, they'll have opportunities to know where they can go once they leave the trails. Some other towns do that with great success. So that's a big issue. We're also looking at getting the signage and confirming what signs we're going to be putting up through towns for designating our roads for safe travel.
Thank you. Any other liaisons? Okay. Report of the town manager. Kathy?
You have the written report in front of you. Again, we've mentioned it a couple times tonight, that our joint meeting, January 22nd, 2019, that's going to be with the Board of Education, but we're going to hold that at the Farmington High School cafeteria at 7 p.m. If you remember, one of our recommendations have been that things that in reference to the high school, we should probably be doing at the high school. So I suggest that we meet at the high school for that. So we have it at the cafeteria. Our Nutmeg air dates, so these are our air dates, and just a reminder that these council meetings now are live streaming and they begin at 6:55, so if anyone wants to, they start taping us at 6:55, so just a FYI.
So
Yes.
if you're running late, everyone notices that? Is that
Yes.
I wanted to confirm that.
I didn't want to mention that, but okay.
I think people made a note of it.
Yeah.
I think they did.
We usually invite our state legislators to our first February meeting of the month to give us an update on the upcoming budget session, so I was planning on doing that. Right now, it looks like we have two. It would be Mike D'Amico and Derek Slapp, because our other two legislative group, I think, are going with Ned Lamont. So I will ask those two to join us if that's the consensus of, I think that's usually useful for the council.
Thank you.
Nancy Parent gave me a report on our community service holiday program update. I think it's always nice to let the council know that what our community service department's doing with the holidays. Quite a lot goes on, and just again that there was it was a great success with more than 230 households registered, 432 meals for Thanksgiving and holiday meals provided, and 224 children were sponsored with holiday gifts. So you saw what Nancy wrote to me, but it is a big undertaking for the department, and I think they serve a lot of the community, and it's very successful. So great job to her department and what they do for the residents.
I just want to add to Kathy that it does mention the community partnerships with the Tunxus Hose and Farmington Fire, Stop and Shop, Highland Park Market, and Farmington CERT.
Right.
And what a great thing. I was at Highland Park Market and came out, and the fire department was there. And, you know, it's just wonderful to see so many people in our community taking the opportunity to really help one another. So we have a great community.
Right, right. And even as you even said that we work with the police department as well as the
Yes.
alternative high school too. So it's really a lot of different groups getting together and doing that. On the Brownfield Municipal grant, so unfortunately we were notified by the Department of Economic and Community Development in mid-December that we did not receive our Brownfield assessment grant for the former Parsons property. DECD received 39 applications, approximately $20.5 million of grant funding. Of the 39 applications, only 11 projects were funded. So because it was during the holiday season, we have some meetings scheduled to kind of regroup to see where we should be going. We're meeting with our consultant, I think later this week, to see if she can review the phase one in further detail and give us a plan to move forward. We also have a meeting scheduled with Mike D'Amico, I think either later this week or early next week, to talk to him about other state brownfields opportunities. And we also have a meeting set with the Deputy Commissioner of DECD on January 17th. So we are trying to regroup about what we're going to do until I have those meetings. And it was disappointing that we didn't get the grant. It's difficult for sometimes communities like Farmington to get those types of grants, but I thought it was a good application and a good packet. But we're going to do some due diligence with some of these experts and find out where we stand. And I'll be reporting back both to the Farmington Village Committee and also to the council in February at our February meeting.
Madam Chair, can I ask Kathy on there's a couple, how much was the grant that we were requesting?
I think if I'm correct, $400,000.
And to confirm your meeting with Deputy Commissioner David Corus, because I know there's multiple deputy commissioners.
Yes.
Has there been any consideration of meeting with DEEP?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to try to, after we meet with Amy from our consultant, to try to kind of see if she can guide us a little bit and kind of get a new plan. But I think meeting with DECD is probably a good idea, too.
Yeah, I know Mark Lewis at DEEP works a lot with DECD.
Right,
with these grants.
yes. Good, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Question also. Kathy, your consultant, the consultant that you're mentioning, Amy Valancourt, is that someone who helped to prepare the town?
Yep, helped prepare the grant, and she's working with our Farmington Village Commission and helping us. She's an environmental expert and does purchases and works to help municipalities buy property or work through the state system. And so she's under contract with us, so we're going to meet with her and see, what her thoughts are about this. So.
Is the response back? Did it give you some direction or scale?
Nope, no.
No feedback?
No. They have we did our own self-assessment where you have criteria that you're supposed to meet, and we looked like we thought we had a pretty high application, but again, some of the things about Farmington puts us down lower on some of these grants, and I think that's part of it. And they, but there's more grant opportunities. They do come up, and we did contact CROG and some different things. So I really, I think we just need to talk to these people and kind of regroup, and I'll report again in February about kind of where we stand.
Okay, anything else?
And just as you know, and I think I alerted the council, but we do have two positions that are vacant right now that are significant positions in the town. We have our town planner and also our town assessor. Just that our town planner is currently being filled by our assistant town planner, Shannon, and our assistant assessor, Edward, is acting town assessor. The assessor's job has been posted, and we've received several qualified applicants, and the town planner's application deadline is January 14th. So we are looking to fill these positions as quickly as we can, and we're moving forward, but I feel confident that with our two assistants in the department, we're well-staffed in the meantime.
Any other questions for Kathy? Okay, I need a motion for the report, please.
Move to approve the town manager report.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Appointments.
Yeah.
We have one.
L3, that Michael Berlandi be appointed to, Richard Berlandi be appointed to Conservation and Inland Wetlands Commission as an alternate for the balance of a 4-year term beginning immediately and ending September 30th, 2019.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Any other? No.
Nope.
Old business? New business?
Madam Chair, I move to consider and take action on the following blighted building lists: 14 Blue Ridge Drive, 23 Lakeview Drive, and 56 Lake Garda Drive.
Second.
If you remember, historically, we usually table this item after we talk about it. We don't have to do that, but we do have 75 days to act on it according to our charter, according to our ordinance. We do have the 3 items. Our Lakeview Drive one is one that has been on for a while. We're in legal, we're waiting for the legal court case to be finished. We're hoping that that's going to be early this year. 14 Blue Ridge Drive is one that, if you remember, I had recommended last year that it be put on, and the council at that time had said to ask me to try to work with the homeowner to try to see if we could see some improvements. Unfortunately, that has not taken place, so I'd like to see that on the blighted building list. And 56 Lake Garda Drive is one that's bank-owned, and the bank is really not doing anything over the property, and I think that should be on the blighted list, too. We did have one property that was removed. That was 15 Walnut. That was taken off the blighted building list this year, and that, I think, was demolished just recently. So that was done, and I think another house is going on up there. So.
Okay. So could I have a motion to table this for the next, for February, please?
So move.
Second.
Any questions?
Is table correct, or should it be postponed?
Postpone, sorry.
Okay. So move.
Second.
Sorry, that was me, Nancy.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. N2.
I move to consider to take action on budget targets for 2019, 2020, 2019 to 2020 fiscal year.
Second.
So you have in your packet some information, and I also emailed some follow-up information that was requested. So again, just in general, in the past, the town council has set budget targets for the town manager and for the Board of Education. At times, the town council has set expenditure targets, and at overall times, an overall tax rate was given. Last year, you guys did set expenditure targets for both the town and the school system. For most years, the town council has set a target range and not a specific number. And in the past, the town council has provided some general policy direction regarding the budget. It is somewhat difficult, I realize, because not all the information is available at this time. For example, our revenues, our state aid, and the grand list are yet not complete. So I do understand that. Most times we think of this as kind of a starting point of a process and not the ending point. So that's, I did try to put a little bit more information in about, some budget drivers in my budget. We have just started the budget process, so this is, again, just my best guess, kind of, until we go through it in detail, which we haven't done yet. That's what we're going to be doing. I do know that we have gone through, other than I have not met with the Board of Education on their capital yet, but I do know that the capital does, there's a lot of requests on the town side for capital. So, we've been working through that. So, and I mentioned that in my narrative. We did add some information that we do think that the debt service will be increasing approximately 7 to 10% due to the wastewater treatment plant facility upgrade coming online. And on some really very positive news is our revenue side of the budget. And, again, these are projections on the 18-19 budget, but it looks like we're going to have another really very good revenue year. And most of our grants have come in. So for 18-19, again, I hate to, say it's going to happen. If we start having snow tomorrow and it snows from now until the end, there's other things that could happen. So, but in this moment of time, if things go well, it looks like that we're going to be returning approximately $1.2 million for revenues into the general fund. And also, if you remember last year, we did return quite a bit of money back to the fund balance. So I know that the council has talked about that, and it looks like our fund balance is potentially going to be on the upper end of, up in 14%, which is on the upper end of our policy. So I think the council should be looking at that factors when we move through the budget process. There may be opportunities, if the council so wishes, to review using some of the fund balance. I know that we spoke about it a couple of months ago for one-time type of project needs, if things, continue to go with the revenue. But the revenue does look very positive. And in general, right now, I think that maintaining our services where we are, I'm looking at least a mid to a high 2 to a 3% increase. But again, I have not gone through the budget yet, but based on some of the things that we see, some of the goals that we have, some of the things with the capital, some various things. But again, it's very early in the process, but I just wanted to try to give you a guideline for where I'm coming from.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want to add some additional commentary as we have further discussion on this. I know that we've done this last year, and I know that we had a very long discussion about it, and I hope we have a very good discussion about it tonight as well. I definitely want to come forward and share with the council that I am in support of setting a target tonight. And I wanted to give 3 main reasons why I'm looking at setting a target tonight. We all know that today's market going on with the stock market and people looking at their 401ks, they're seeing a drastic drop in their values, and that's concerning. Projects. Number 2, the town has a lot of initiatives to get done. We have a lot. We can't do them all. I'm just going to name a few that are big projects. We have the high school. We have the Village Center, Parsons property. We have the potential bridge to deal with the traffic concern that we have in our town. The fire department. We know that the fire department has needs. We postponed something last year. I'm sure that the town manager is potentially going to bring that forward this year. Third, our community expects us as leaders to look at these things. We have to. We cannot turn our eye and forget about everything that we have on our plate. We set a strategic plan. We have at least a 5-year look back, 5-year look ahead. We're planning on having a 7-year look ahead. We have a lot of data at our hands. We're not going to have everything tonight. Kathy, I know that you mentioned that this is the start of the process. That's how I look at it. This is just the beginning. It's not the final number. I also look at it as it brings it more transparent to our community to understand what we're doing for folks that are here and willing to listen. We're going to have several budget workshops. And setting a target puts our department heads a guideline of looking at what they have to try to meet, and if they can't meet, they're going to bring it forward to us. So not only the council will understand it, the community will understand why we are changing if we have to change. It's not set in stone. It's a target. The result by doing this will help us to avoid any unexpected tax increase. And I think that's imperative. As council members, we need to think about our community. As we go through these times today, the federal government being shut down, we're getting more and more reduction in state aids. These are some major cuts happening. Last year was my first year going through the budget. I asked tons of questions, tons. And I think it made a lot of people uncomfortable about it. But it was just really trying to get underneath the covers and understanding it. And I think as leaders of council people on this dais tonight, we have to do that for our community. I'm here for our community, and I want to make sure that we protect our community's investments. And by doing that, setting a target for our department heads gives them a challenge. You've got to challenge people so they can raise the bar. I think they came in very close last year, and I think that there's potentially more opportunities. And I'm going to state the facts again. We got a lot of things going on in Washington. We got projects going on in our own community. I'm going to list them again. We got the high school. We got the Village Parsons property. We got the potential bridge. We got needs at the fire department, needs for our road. I even looked at that report last night. And I'm looking to try to avoid any potential tax increase in the future. So I support this council to come up with a target. And I hope that we can have a conversation. We're not going to have everything tonight, but that's the purpose of our workshops. And to have a full discussion within our community. Thank you.
Other conversation. Paul?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good points in there. I also think it's good to, as you said, Bruce, use this as a starting point and, as almost goalposts that we, our town can come up with a nice budget plan for. Understanding that this isn't set in stone, this is just the starting point. I'm absolutely for creating some kind of, budget target tonight. So I think it's just a matter of we're coming up with, correct me if I'm wrong, what those targets are tonight, right?
A range.
A range.
A range
sure.
is what we've done in the past. What I would suggest we do the same.
So yeah, I'm in favor of having a target. I don't know if it's too soon to get into what those targets should be or not. I think last year I was in the low 2s where I came out and thought it should be. I'm probably in a similar spot this year. When you look at CPI, a lot of the projects we have coming up the next couple of years, the debt service, which is going to go up, as Kathy said, 7 to 10%. We can't control that. That's a fixed cost on our line. I'm in that low 2 range, 2 to 2.25 maybe, but open to hear everyone's thoughts and discussion, and kind of like last year, definitely flexible to hear what other people have to say.
Thank you. Other?
Madam Chair?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I am completely not prepared to talk about deciding on setting a target tonight, and I'm certainly not at the point where I would throw numbers out, and I think, and I can certainly explain that. I want to thank the town manager. I think she provided a good summary based on lots of unknowns at this point for us in terms of wage increases, utilities, all the things that she summarized, and it gives us some projections. And I know that we're not going to have 100% of the information at any point during this budget. It's always a moving target. We're talking about planning for next year, and we're talking about a lot of different variables. This is certainly a challenging process. It's probably the most challenging thing we go through as a council. We don't get too much disagreement there. And setting the target, I think, at least for myself and others that have gone before me, is extremely challenging as well. At this point in the process, it can put us and the staff, as well as on the school side, staff and administration, in a difficult position to start with a number when we are lacking so much information. It's limited what we have right now. Again, I know that we're not going to have 100% at any point in the process, but I think it's important to take note and for the public to understand that the information we have right now in the packet that we did receive, it doesn't include any projections or any kind of summary to represent the school side, which is 2/3 of the town's entire operating budget. So that's a big missing piece for me to talk about what we think the target should be. So I'm just wondering at this point if Nancy as chair or Kathy as the town manager, Kathy, I know you mentioned you weren't sure about capital on the school side, but you figured there would be an increase. I mean, we've seen the Fryer report.
Right.
We heard the discussions.
Right,
But in terms of operating.
Yeah, that wouldn't be on my purview, but the school does come and meets with me after, and they present their capital to me in mid-February.
Right.
So, but the operating is not, I don't have anything to do with that part of it.
So at this juncture, we're not sure what those drivers are, and I feel like we needed at least an initial assessment of the overall needs of the town, including the school, in order to look at going ahead and setting a target. So I'd be looking for more information before I'd consider setting a target. And I think that's a responsible approach. I think having as good numbers as we can at a point which it's still early enough in the process, like Bruce mentioned, because I know it's some direction, providing direction to the town staff and administration. But I think it's a responsible approach to take just a bit more time to get some more information, ask for information from the town manager, and to hear even just some projection or summary for the school side. And I would like it to be a range also. I think that's a good approach. That's where I'm at right now.
Go ahead.
All right, Madam Chair, thank you. To piggyback on some of Beth's comments, I'm not prepared tonight to set a target. I think the Board of Ed capital needs are unknown. I think it does a disservice to the town to set a target if we don't have a better picture of what the expected increases in costs are. In particular, I think it is far more transparent to the town if there is if the town council has a better picture of what's needed as part of both the budget setting process as well as any target that may be set in no disservice at all, Kathy, to what you do in terms of working with your departments and trying to come up with a budget to present to us, because I appreciate all the work you do and you save us work in doing that. But I also think there's an advantage to us to see the full picture of what you might have said no to because of X, whatever may be going on in town, or in terms of what your departments need, or in terms of seeing the Board of Ed capital budget. And I think as a leader, it's important that we get as much information as possible when we're setting a target, so that way that target can be a reasonable approach. And I struggle with this a lot. I think in some ways targets can be arbitrary if you don't have enough information. I also appreciate we're never going to have all the information that we would like to have. But I'm hesitant to vote on a target tonight.
Other comments? Paul?
Just a quick comment about the one thing I guess I respect everything you had to say, but I would disagree on it, is I think the most transparent thing we can do is set an aggressive target, see what those budgets look like from the education and town side. And we can always, if we think those budgets are ugly and there's a lot of cuts, we can always put stuff back in there in the light of day during our workshops. But if we don't set a target, or we set a target that's too high and everything comes in within the targets, we never see that really take place. So I think the most transparent thing we can do is have an aggressive target.
Madam Chair, can I clarify? Sure, thank you. I agree, it's transparent if we add things back in. I also would take the flip side that it's transparent that just because it's not my idea of a target, so I'm going to pick a perfectly really high number so you all know this isn't where I'm coming from. But if we were to, for example, say a 12% target and a budget comes in, or, Kathy proposes a budget at 12%, that doesn't mean we have to adopt that budget. That's an opportunity for us to see what the town is asking for, and then to have some more say in terms of the priorities of the town and evaluating what we think the overall budget should be. I don't think the target, I think Bruce made this point too, it's not set in stone. So I think if a target is higher, that's not set in stone as being a higher value. It's just being set in stone, not set in stone. It's showing us what that would look like and what that includes, which we can then choose how to allocate the funds perhaps differently.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I know this is going to be I think this discussion is great because I think we all have different viewpoints. And I want to make sure that our community knows as council people, and if I'm wrong in saying this, and I want all my fellow council folks to correct me, we did get a CIP plan, capital improvement plan, for at least 5 years look ahead. So we have some knowledge of what both the school and the town's forecasts of capital improvement plans. We also know that we are on some subcommittees for other departments, like the school's high school project, the Parsons parking lot. As council people, we know that those are initiatives that we voted on that we thought were important to move forward that are not in our budget today. So what has changed from last year's 5-year forecast to this year, there will be some changes. But I don't think those changes are going to be significant enough that we couldn't come up with a target today. And I just want to level set with everyone here. When I stood up here and said that I'm supportive in coming up with a target tonight, it's because I felt confident that we had a lot of information given to us. We've been sitting up here for a full year as council people, working with a lot of these department heads as liaisons or special appointees, that we should be informed enough, because we give updates here to the community. So to say that we don't have enough information because we need the capital improvement forecast, we don't have that information. We got a starting point. It's not a solid number. I appreciate all the feedback and I applaud the different point of views. But change is hard. Making any type of change is very hard. And I know that anybody that is listening to this tonight, that if you do a project personally for yourself, you're going to have a number in your head. You don't know what's going to come in yet, but you're going to have a number. Because you know what you can probably afford. 7 of us up here, we know what our town has coming in. There are some variables, but we should know that today. So in our own minds, I think we owe it to the community. We've been here for a year. We owe it to our community to look out for our community by not giving them a clear direction tonight. Potentially could slow down the process. We got to be clear in our messages. We cannot say we don't have enough information when we got at least 5 years. We asked for 7, we're going to be getting that. So I just want to make sure that our community knows, and just to remind our council people that we have some CIP data, and if there's anything new coming, I'm sure there will be. But we've heard it through our year process sitting up here of what those changes could be happening. So that's why I feel confident of giving a target range, because it's not set in stone, and it's something for us to work through as transparent with our community and the department heads to understand their needs. And we owe that for our community.
Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Kathy, for your work in putting together this information for us. It's very helpful as always. It's always very difficult to set a target. We're trying to balance the needs of the town, the needs of the school system, and the reality of and what our taxpayers face, balancing all 3 of those things. So before I give some kind of thoughts on where I'm at, I actually have a couple questions for Kathy on some of the information that you presented tonight. So for the wage increases, you said that's going to be close to 3%. So that's based on all the approved contracts, and what is unknown, I guess, in that number?
Well, we haven't settled all our contracts yet, so that's why, but the contracts, we have steps and we have different things. We did settle our largest contract, and I forgot what the number was. I think it was 2.25, and then there's some steps, and some of the other contracts aren't settled. So I think that, and we have some step increases involved. So I think, again, historically, we're kind of close to the 3% for our overall wages.
Okay. You also have anticipated renewals, as well as program changes in our health insurance will likely result in a 5 to 10% increase. Does this assume the new high deductible plan and anybody that opted into that? Or is that baked into these numbers?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is that we're rolling it out, and one of the things that's different about the high deductible plan is that we have to put money out to do that, and that's something that we haven't had to do before. So there's that. That's another reason why I think my 3%, what I said it at the end, is a little higher than what I usually come in at, is because now we have to put the seed money in, and that's actually real money. So right now, because we're not going to have the plan set, because we're just rolling it out, we're kind of in between both. We're going to have the old health insurance plan, and we're going to be doing the seed money. So I think overall, will likely result for a 5 or 10% increase. But again, it's early on, so I don't want to put
So are you anticipating some people opting in that 5 to 10%?
We're anticipating, we're trying to get everyone to get in, but that's going to, so we don't know really how to budget it yet. So the health insurance is sort of an unknown, and that's why I kind of gave it a big range. So our renewals are coming in, but we're changing over our plan, so we expect savings there, but we have to put seed money in. So there's a lot of different moving parts to it. So I just tried to broad base it on that. So.
Sure. Thank you. That's very helpful. In regards to the grand list, I know you're kind of talking about the current fiscal year here. Do we have any forecast of what type of increase or change that we're expecting? I know there's a lot of construction going on in town. Do we have any feel for, are we expecting a larger increase than average historically? Or is it going to be closer to average, or how? I know you can't be exact with that, so.
I know, I hate to give projections on the grand list because it's still it's early in the process, but there's a couple of things that is a little bit different about the grand list this year is because we just came out of a reval year, and when you come out of a reval year, you have a lot of legal cases, and that has to be incorporated into the cost. So your grand list gets adjusted because of that, because you have to account for anything that last year, that if we had the grand list at a certain number and we lost those legal battles or we settled, that number gets taken out, and that then becomes part of this new grand list. So you may see, I think if you look around town, you see growth happening all over the place, so you would think that you're probably going to see some good grand list growth, but that said, you have to factor in the last year's legal stuff, which is going to take some out. So I'm hesitant, but I think you're maybe 0.5, maybe.
0.5% increase in grand list?
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you very much. That's helpful information. Another thing I was thinking about, so first of all, I'm certainly in favor of us setting a target. I'm not really quite there tonight. And I think one piece of information that would help me get there and help me be at a point where I can make a decision at our next meeting, if this were to be postponed to the next meeting, would be if we could have some sort of high-level impact analysis of, you're proposing a 3% here. And when I say high-level impact analysis, I'm not talking about, creating this whole, budget book for various scenarios, but like very high level, a 3% increase, a 2.5% increase, and a 2% increase at a high level. If you could come back at the next meeting with information that kind of gives us what potentially would be at risk, or any of those scenarios, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I don't think I can do that, because that's like doing the budget document, and I'm going through the whole budget, so I'm meeting with my departments, going through it, putting everything together, and that's not, that's a whole process. That's a 2-month process that I'm working on to get to the February. My budget document is not complete until the last week in February. So, I don't have a document until that time. I'm meeting with the department heads week by week by week, and we cut it. So again, the document's not done. So I don't.
Well, I was just thinking you have some, information here on what you're anticipating, I guess, just with that very high level information.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a whole process that we're going through, and so halfway through the process, the budget document's not done. So, I may not have met with the police department, so I haven't seen it. I haven't done. We haven't got our renewals for health insurance yet. We haven't done this. We haven't got our state grants. So I'm not sure. I mean, if you, and these things right now. Again, a lot of these are guesstimates because I don't know them. I was just trying to look at what I'm projecting. Sure. And I'm not going to have any more of these projections until close to the end of the process. And so, I'm...
But I mean, you seem to know that at the 3%, that we're going to maintain current service levels and continue to progress in achieving our strategic goals.
Right. And
going below that, there has to be
right, and that's
something that...
Well, and again, I just historically know that if you look, that it's in the high 2s to maintain services in the town of Farmington. And then based on your strategic goals, I know that there's certain things off the top of my head that need to be looked at. And then, so historically, to do that, then you have some goals, you have some different things, you have your wage increases. So, if you said, what would you not have for 2.5%, I could probably tell you that off the top of my head right now of, 2.5, you're probably not going to have any new people. When you're closer to 3%, you may have people. So this is something that, again, based on what the goals and objectives are, is whether or not we're going to be putting in an additional police officer, an additional recreation clerk, additional based on these goals. So, the cost of doing business the way we have is, anywhere from, a 2.5%. You start adding people to the budget, it's probably closer to 3%. I'm not sure, again, because we haven't gone through the budget, if people are recommending people, but I do know that people are busy and that there could be staffing needs. So again, I'd be more than happy to try to get you want, but I haven't created it up until the end. So it's not like I do a 2% budget, 3% budget. I'm doing my budget, and I have more information as it goes on, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think one of the things, just quick, and then I'll let you go ahead, is that talking about targets, which I'm totally in favor of doing the targets, and I always have been. The reason that we went from a number, say a 2.5 or a 3 or a 2, and we came up with ranges, was because of some of the things Kathy's talking about. In my opinion, it's comforting to know that we're looking at a range, and even that range, even if it were 2.5 for me, it would be hearing from Kathy as to what she felt. If you come in, as she just said, at that number, this is what it means. Below that, this is what I'm going to be doing, and because of that, these are the things I can't do. Or these are the creative measures we've decided on, as we did last year, to do bonding for the high school, for some of those initiatives which we didn't put into capital then, but they were thinking about, in conjunction with the school system, how to do this and how to present it best to the public, and what different ways can we think about to move these things forward. And so I do think that it's important to set the targets, and I think the comforting thing is that even though we set the range, and we keep saying it's not set in stone, I believe it's just something for us to look at and to give Kathy, both sides, a guidance to begin with, but that once we see what that means, we have full control to say, gee, because this isn't in it, this is where we're going to look to go, or because this is in this place, we feel we can bond that instead of putting it here. So I just look at that as a range, but am comforted by the fact that once we go through our deliberations, we'll look and see what can and can't be moved forward, and how we can do things in different ways. So that's just a thought. I wouldn't expect Kathy to come because of what she just said, and they're going to start going into it deeply now of every piece, and really getting it, and also the numbers that may come in before, when we're looking at that by March. And I'm comforted also or encouraged by the numbers that we have here, the numbers in our grand list, we're talking about that a little bit, and Kathy's not sure, but the other numbers that we're looking at with possible grants, and there are things that we can do, I think, to look at creatively. So and still safeguarding the fact that we will do that during our budget deliberations. So, Edward, go.
Sure.
Is there anything?
I appreciate your comments. I think I'm still, like I said, I'm in favor of setting a target, but I think I'd still prefer, I know Beth wanted to get some information from the Board of Ed, so I'd be willing to wait to the following meeting to set the target, but I certainly would not wait any longer than the following meeting to set a target if it were postponed tonight. So that's where I'm at.
Other?
Sure.
CJ.
Well, first off, I really respect the concept of not setting targets and letting the departments come forward with what they feel they need for the coming year. I think it's very laudable. And it's been something, as Beth mentioned, has been brought up in past years with past councils. And at the end of the day, I think we always end up circling back to, we're doing a disservice actually to those departments by not giving them some type of goal to reach for. If we had each department and we said, just tell us what you need, and all the departments came in at a 10% increase, we couldn't do that. And we're actually creating much more work for those departments to have them then go back and say, well, wait a minute, you just told us to set what we thought. Now they have to sort of reinvent the wheel. I guess I'm looking at this from listening to what everyone's saying from a slightly different direction. Last year, the majority of you sitting around the table saw a 2.2 consumer price index and came up with a unanimous vote of a range of 2.25 to 2.75. This year, CPI is again at 2.2. To me, that's a huge indicator because that's telling us what our constituents, what the people in the town are seeing as their price increases and potentially, if it is happening with them, their salary increases. And at the end of the day, we have to look not to what each department would like to do this year, but what the town really can afford to do. And when I say what the town can afford to do, I'm saying what each individual homeowner and citizen of this town can afford. Because what we're looking at is some type of tax increase. And what are we going to increase our taxes in the town of Farmington? The town manager's come in and said she sees 3% to be basically keeping services they are. I don't think many of us sitting up here are going to say we really want to cut services in town and we want to set ourselves backwards. But we also don't want to come forward and tell our people, hey, we think there should be a really big increase because some of these departments felt that's what they needed. And it's not that there aren't needs, but every year we sit around this table and we discuss which needs we can address right now and which ones we have to wait, just like every one of us does at home. I can go home and say, you know what, I really would like a new car. Well, that's not in the cards right now. I'd like a new addition on the house. That's not in the cards right now. And you have to plan ahead. We've got, it's been brought up a few times, our plan and what we're looking at for our future spending in town. And 5 years down the road, what are going to be our big ticket items? We know what those are going to be, so that's easy to target. But with each individual department, I think we're doing them really a disservice if we don't give them at least a guide to start with. We have, throughout the course of this council, come in above, come in below, and where we see a true need, if we see a department coming in, and the Board of Ed hasn't come in with their numbers, if we see them come in and say, you know what, we're going to be laying off teachers, we're going to be closing, we're not going to have classes unless we get an increase of X, we're going to sit around here saying, do we really want to do that to the school system? But by setting that target to start with, they know what we're expecting, what we think we can achieve. I've sat on this table where we set a target for the Board of Education. They came in twice that target. And we tried to do as much as we could to come very close to what they were looking for in the past. So I think this is, as it's been mentioned, really a starting point. And by creating a target today, we give the department some idea of what we think we can be spending and what we think the public is willing to accept. And if they have a good reason why it has to be significantly more than that, then we have to have a little deeper conversation. But I think we do them a disservice if we don't give them some kind of target. In business, you don't ask your departments how much money they want, unless you're one of those very few businesses that has more money than they know what to do with. So I think we have to help them out and give them a target tonight. And I appreciate Ed saying, let's get some more information and wait a little bit. But again, this is not a target that's set in stone. I think all we do by waiting another meeting or 2 weeks later is slow down the process. And then we're putting the town and all these departments under the gun because they're not ready. They can't hit the ground running. So I'm ready to set a target. And I think, what you set last year, 2.25 to 2.75 with the same CPI as it is right now, I think would be reasonable. Whether we could come in and set a hard number, I appreciate hard numbers rather than ranges, but I think it's a reasonable range if we did that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So I appreciate all the dialogue that's been happening tonight, and I think, I'm going to state again that change is never easy, and I know for folks setting a target may be hard, and a target range. When people manage their own finances, I like to bring this back to an individual. When people manage their own finances, They kind of know what they can afford and what they can't afford. I heard CJ saying he wants a new car. That would be nice.
I don't want to.
You know, so every day in our lives we know, and I look at my checkbook, I know what's in there. I feel as council people, we have a pulse on what the town's financial budget is. We know what's going on. We sit here every month talking. Kathy is our town manager. She would alert us if there's anything going on. We have liaisons sitting in other boards and commissions if something is going on. We get updates in executive sessions on contract negotiations. We have that data. To sit back and ask the town to do a mini budget so we can set a range, which is not set in stone, it's a range to really push the envelope with our department heads. That's leadership. Leadership is giving clear direction. It's not waiting and wondering, what if? We are leaders. We should be listening to our department heads every month. And we should have the confidence to give a range tonight. And as I speak up here, I am going to do that tonight. And I'm proposing a target range of 2 and 2.5%.
Something else I want to add to what you've all said is something that it's not just a stab in the dark. We do have historical data that shows, well, obviously where we've been every year, but also when budgets have failed. And those of us that have sat through that and gone through those failed budgets, not once, but sometimes twice, we have an idea of where the community, where their breaking point is. And for me personally this year, when I talk about the ranges, I'm also thinking about, my range might have been a little bit higher, but because of all of the things we're thinking about and that everybody's mentioned, the high school, the fire department needs, other needs of the town that we just have, that last year we cut a number of things from the town to get to where we were in the CIP, in the capital budget. And there are things that I see looming that I'm looking, and the Fryer report, there are things we need to address. So with those things at the bridge, I mean, I've probably forgotten one, but there are major needs that we are expecting the public to support, that we need the public to support. So with that in mind, those kinds of things, and with the idea that and as the town manager mentioned, it's something that if we can spend and put money into those things, the center committee, the Parsons property, all of these things cost money. And I think that the community, there's only so much they can bear. And our budget is something that we will pass, and then we'll go to the town and is the basis for the next year. Whereas some of these other things that we can do, I'm hopeful that we can do them in bonding or do them in a one-time expenditure, so that our community doesn't take on that a high budget percentage increase that will just compound itself every year. So those are some of my thoughts as well. But it's not just the stab in the dark. It's some of the history that we know from the town, and it's also thinking about, as many have mentioned, what's coming in the future. And thinking about it, as was mentioned, in your own home and what you can do. That's realistic to me, and it's I look to Kathy Greeter and Kathy Egan to present things to us and tell us what what it means, and see if there's a way we can work out things if there are needs that they feel are above and beyond what we're trying to set. So anyway, that's my thought. So, yes, CJ.
I'd like to make a motion to set a budget target of 2 to 2.5%.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I'd like to move to postpone this vote to the next meeting.
Is there a second? No second.
Second, I'm sorry.
Okay. So we have that motion on the floor.
Do we have any discussion now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead if you'd like.
I just want to clarify two things. One is that, yes, I am in favor of a target, although I do think that we should wait to the next meeting. And just to remind everyone that last year, we didn't set our target until the second meeting of January, so there's really no adverse impact compared to the process last year. If we do wait to the next meeting to allow for a little additional time to get some additional information from Board of Ed or other information that's required, we'll still be on the same exact timeline that we were last year. That's all.
Yes.
So I'm still in favor of moving forward. And I think I appreciate my fellow council people that want to maybe postpone it. I think just adding on to Edward's comment that last year we did do it the second week in January. Well, the majority of us were new.
Yes.
The expectation of our community that we've been here for a full year, that we should have the information in order to make an informed decision. That's all we're doing. It's a target range. It's not setting anything in stone. I don't know what would change from 2 weeks from now, but I know that things will change during our workshops. And it's really setting a bar for our department heads to work from. That's what leadership does. Can you imagine working in a role for a whole year and we can't set a target? I support the 2 and 2.5% to move forward.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So the history here actually is that very often this vote has been postponed, whether or not it's a new council or not. I know that there's been same discussion, very similar discussion, many years that I've been following this process. And to say it's not set in stone, I can appreciate that because I think, again, my first comment was that this is very much a moving target. But once you put a number out there, it sets an expectation, not just for the folks that need to come up with the budget, which is the goal. It also sets an expectation out in the community. And if we don't know if that's a realistic target, because 2/3 of our operating budget we don't have feedback on yet, and then that becomes not a reasonable target, I think it's a more responsible approach to hold off until there's more information.
Madam Chair, I'd like to call the question.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That was
Wait
the
a minute,
motion
wait a
to
minute.
postpone.
We're voting on the,
Call the question on the first motion.
no,
No.
you're voting on the postponement.
We're voting
It's
on the
on the table
motion
right
that
now.
Patty
The
made.
motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone, okay.
Okay, so this is to vote on the motion to postpone. So all of those in favor of postponing this, setting the target, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Poll the board. The council, excuse
Nay.
me.
Nay. Nay.
I said aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
The motion fails. We now have the other motion on the floor to set a target at 2.2 to 2.5.
It was
No,
2.
I mean, 2 to 2.5. Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, Beth?
I'm 2 to 2.5%, again, with this missing information for a target. You know, I heard a couple of people mention setting an aggressive target is the way to go, and I completely disagree with that at this point in the process. I think while we are absolutely responsible to set a fiscally responsible budget for our town, we owe that to our residents. The other thing we're charged with is to respond to community need, and we don't have a clear picture, particularly on the school side, as to what those needs are going forward for next year. And so I think it's completely inappropriate to set an aggressive target this early.
And I know we wouldn't have any, in another week or two, the information, really full information to be moving forward. I think we'll get that information as we go through the budget in our workshops. I just had to comment. Go ahead.
preferred to postpone this. I do think 2 to 2.5 is too aggressive in light of the fact that our town manager has told us she anticipates a 3% increase, and that a 2.5% would be maintaining services as is, so 2% would be a cut in services.
Other comments? Okay. All those in favor of the target range being 2 to 2.5, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Poll the council.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. N3.
I move to set a public hearing February 12, 2019 at 7:05 PM in the Town Hall Council Chambers to amend the Farmington Town Code Charter 118 Housing Code.
Second.
Just to let you know, is in your packet, it wasn't incorrect, but for some reason, the red stopped making it red halfway through. So I just left another one on your places that had the red. So but there was no difference in it. You could see it, it just wasn't red. So I just wanted to be clear. And that we'll have the public hearing where we'll have a presentation at the next meeting and go through the questions. So at 7:05 next meeting.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? N4.
I move to set a public hearing on the town manager's proposed 7-year capital improvement project February 26, 2019 at 6 PM in the Town Council Chambers.
Second.
Any questions? Go ahead.
And again, this is our public hearing where we start at 6 o'clock. We go through the capital budget. Both the school system and I go through our budgets. Then the Board of Education presents their capital budget, and then the town departments do. Historically, we don't take any action. We just listen to all the capital because it's a large part of the budget. And then in March, we don't have to go through it as much in detail. So we go through it in detail at this meeting. We usually don't make any changes, and then again, take no action. But then in the March, our next meeting, we present the entire budget.
Questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So I think this is fabulous. We made a change last year. It was 5 years. We increased it to 7 years. So this is a good change moving forward. This, again, is adding to the council to understand the needs of the town and our schools so the community can understand what capital improvements that they're planning on bringing forward. So this is just expanding of what we already know today, so great job.
Other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? 5.
I move to approve the following property tax refund totaling $5,003.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Beth, do we have collective bargaining tonight or no?
I do.
Okay, good. Okay.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay. I move to executive session to discuss matters concerning collective bargaining agreements. Members of the town council, members attending this executive session will be members of the town council and town manager.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
At 8:14 PM.
Yep.